I thought this could be a small moneymaker while at university. And then after I graduated, I started taking it more seriously. And that's when I took on a few members of staff and started scaling it sort of into the millions.
Hey guys, it's Matt Haycox here, and today I've got with me entrepreneur Paul Stewart, who set his company up whilst at university and now employs 24 people back home in his city of Belfast. Paul's recently been featured in the Sunday Times in the How I Made It column, and was turning over 5 million at that point. And Paul's business, My Baggage, was founded in 2009 after having issues moving his personal effects between Belfast and Edinburgh. So, Paul, thanks a lot for being here, buddy.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Looking forward to hearing more about your story. You know, certainly digging into your mindset whilst at university. But if you could just give us a little bit more of a background and flesh out what I was talking about, that'd be fantastic.
Yes, no problem. So I started My Baggage back in 2009, which was originally called Uni Baggage. So what happened was I was living in Edinburgh at the time, moving back and forward to Belfast maybe 3-4 times a year at the end of terms. I was constantly getting charged excess baggage fees. So at the end of term in my second year at university, I thought there had to be a better way of getting all my stuff home. You know, maybe 2-3 boxes and a suitcase, and they were looking at about 300 or 400 quid in excess baggage. So I actually found a shipping company that would do it for me, but I had to set up an account with them and go through credit checks, and it was just nightmare. Couriers at the time were only really set up for B2B and business stuff. You know, they didn't want really one-off shipments. So I thought there had to be something there. If I could get enough students to, you know, use this service, I could set up an account and send students' belongings back home at the end of terms. So that's what I did. I thought this could be a small moneymaker while at university. It was sort of more like a summer job rather than a fully fledged business. So I ran it for 2 years in my third and fourth years at university. Turned over a bit of money, a couple $100 grand, which at university was quite a lot for me then. And I was earning more than what I would have as an engineer. That was what my degree was, a structural engineer with architecture. So at the end of the 2 years, there was a lot more in it than I originally thought. So it was only me, a one-man band, doing it for 2 years at university. And then after I graduated, I started taking it more seriously. And that's when I took on a few members of staff and started scaling it sort of into the millions. But certainly at university was the time that I had on my hands to put a lot of effort into it, to sort of do all the orders manually, build the websites, do the marketing, and get everything sort of in at a smaller level when I didn't really have many overheads or didn't really need to make much money. So those 2 years really laid the foundations to then, when I graduated, fully making it into a proper business.
I mean, did you ever have an intention, you know, to be a business person? Do you think, you know, looking back to your childhood, or you know, was this just, you know, solving a problem at a time, that solving the problem then became a bit of a side income, and you've kind of ended up in a different space?
Yeah, well, at school, like, since a very young age, I was always buying and selling stuff. You know, in school, my dad worked for Shell Oil, and he had, you know, all these promotional stuff that you get free, you know, boxes and boxes of key rings. So I remember I used to flog the key rings for like 20p each or something to kids. And kids didn't have any keys, so I'm not too sure why they were buying them. But yeah, made like 10, 20 quid here and there, which as a child was a lot of money to me. And so I always was doing stuff like that. And then at about 15, 16, I started selling on eBay. So I was quite hard. I had to get a debit card to be able to sell on eBay. So at that time, it was very hard to get one of those as a 16-year-old. So I started selling on eBay. That's when I started sort of seeing a little bit of success online. I was selling all sorts of stuff, iPod covers and different things, making a few £1,000 here and there, but nothing big, you know. Then when I went to university, eBay, you know, became massive, and you know, was the professional sellers are doing well, so the margins were very slim. So I moved away from that. But for my first 2 years at university, I wasn't really doing too much business. I was probably studying and doing other things for a couple of years then, and it was only in sort of my second and third year that it actually resulted. I had in Edinburgh, the rooms are quite large. You know, they're big old buildings. So where I was staying, I had a huge room, like it was massive. So I started storing suitcases and bags for other students. So I did that for like one summer, and put a few ads on Facebook. Facebook ads had just came out then. It was by 2008, 2009. And advertised any students that needed space, and ended up filling the room and had to actually lease a warehouse for the summer. It was that successful. So I remember that summer made about £7,500 just for a couple of weeks work at the start of the summer, and then storing it and then returning at the end of the summer. So that gave me the idea for sort of storing and sort of shipping personal effects. But I realized I couldn't do that at every university. I tried it 1 year in Glasgow and it was just a mess. I couldn't control it. It was having to sub it out, and it just was an absolute nightmare to try to scale. So people started asking me about shipping instead, and that's when I had the same problem. It's great storing the stuff if you tend to move back to Edinburgh, after the summer. But if you've finished your degree or you move on to another university, the storage wasn't really useful to you because you still had to come and get it. So that's when the two things kind of came together. I sort of was doing a little bit of storage and then had the need to actually ship stuff. And the shipping was so much easier. You collect it and deliver and get paid, and that's it. The storage, you had to collect it, obviously store it, there wasn't huge margins, and then deliver it again at the end of term. So that's when I moved away from the storage and into the shipping. But there always was a little bit of something going on, but it was always very small scale. It was always, a little bit of extra money, nothing that you could do full time as a living. It's only when, Uni Baggage fully adapted into a big business, which is now turned into My Baggage, that has started to get pretty serious.
What do you think? What would you say your biggest problems? Kind of taking it from being a hobby into being a business. What were the challenges? When did you actually really notice a difference that this could be a business?
Yeah, it was probably after I graduated, the first year I came home. I said I spend a full year in this and see how it does. And that's when I was like, will this be something, will not be something? We were only turning over about 300,000-400,000 then, so I was getting a living out of it, but I couldn't afford to employ anybody out of the profits. So it was at that point that I realized, if I can make this work, I need to be able to provide profits for at least 2 or 3 staff, so I'm not in the business, I'm sort of growing the business. So it was sort of that first year back after graduating that I thought I'll give it a go and see how big I can make it. So at that point, I started really focusing on learning Facebook ads and SEO. So really pushed into, if you were searching for like how to move to America, how to move to UK, how to ship your stuff, luggage shipping, anything around that, I focused on SEO, teaching myself it. And then the Facebook ads was a fantastic route for us to grow because I could target people who lived away from home who were in university. So that for me was like a gold mine. I was able to grow, target, say, if you're in Cambridge University, at the end of term, how are you moving home from Cambridge, stuff like that, and put a landing page for Cambridge. So Facebook really helped us grow. And back then it was really cost effective. It's not the cost it is now, which is, 10 times what it was when I first started. So yes, I focused on the marketing. The product was basically the same for the first 5 years. So I would say I really learned marketing, got stuck into it, and found certain channels that worked, which for me was Facebook and SEO. And pretty much to this day is kind of similar. We still focus on those. However, most of our business actually comes from word of mouth now. So it's over 50% of people that use us, heard about us from a friend, which is great because it's obviously showing that we provide a great service. People tell them about their friends and family, and then we're not paying for that marketing. They just sign up free. So that's great.
I was going to say, is your business something that has much repeat business from existing customers, or is it more they use it once and they don't particularly need it again, but therefore they will refer you to somebody else?
Yeah, it depends. We have a huge range of customers now. So students makes up about 50% of our business. So the students would say use us 2-3 times a year for maybe their 3 or 4 years in university. So we'd have a lot of repeat business from students. But what happens is after the students graduate, before all these lockdown issues happened, younger people were traveling a lot more than ever before. So they might have graduated and got a job in Hong Kong for a year and then moved to Australia for a year. So we could see these students are using us 3-4 times a year, then maybe started using us once a year, but in much bigger moves. So instead from being from London to Edinburgh, it would be from London to Japan, Japan to Australia, and then back and forward. And then when they are away in these countries, they would often ship, stuff that they forgot back home or stuff like that. So every customer is very different. We do get a lot of repeat business, but it just depends on the customer. We have customers that might move to Australia and just emigrate there, and then that's a one-time order, and they'll never need to use us really again. But those orders are often very high value, so it's worth going after those as well. So I like having a mix of stuff. People that use us like 3-4 times a year, and more often than that, at lower order values. And then also having big orders. Some customers are spending £3,000-4,000 in an order with us, compared to our cheapest order, which is about $16.99. So the order values are very different depending on what type of customer we have.
What would you say your biggest challenges have been whilst growing the business?
A few. So working with the different couriers and getting the different routes set up. When I first started, we only had 3 routes. So that was UK to Northern Ireland, UK to UK, and UK to Scottish Highlands and Islands. Now we have 40,000 routes. So keeping all those different routes and pricing updated, as well as all the custom requirements in every country outside the EU, does take a lot of effort. So all the red tape, it's always a problem, but I think our website's pretty well optimized for our customers. They fill in a few details and we handle it all, behind the scenes. Whereas you try to ship something yourself without knowing all the custom paperwork required, you'll get custom fees and it'll be a nightmare. So we handle a lot. So putting that in place, about 3-4 years ago was a big task to learn all the regulations for each country. Also, the marketing has changed massively since we first started. We could acquire customers a lot cheaper 8-9 years ago than now. So the cost to acquire customers for any business is, one of the biggest expenses. So I'd say those two sort of were key in growing the company, but also were the biggest headaches. Getting your marketing right and trying different things, as well as sort of the red tape in different countries.
And tell me, obviously, you started your business whilst at uni, and I guess by accident as well. From solving a problem that that was something that was affecting you personally. Who did you look to for support? If anyone, have you had mentors, advisors, people who've helped you on your journey? What's been your path for knowledge?
Good question. Back 10 years ago, entrepreneur and all these business words weren't a cool thing to be that they are now. The last sort of 4 or 5 years, it's been cool to be in business or to be an entrepreneur or stuff like that. So there's a lot more support now. Back then, there wasn't a huge amount of support. It was just me by myself. I don't have any investors. The business is completely bootstrapped. So I didn't have those to look to for advice. My dad is a property developer, so I looked to him for inspiration. That's where I kind of always wanted to push hard for, because I know he was successful. So I wanted to sort of emulate that. So I looked to him for advice. But apart from that, there was no real one person that, I went to for advice or inspiration for. It was more just like, if I saw someone doing something well, which at the time was, if you remember, a company called Morph Suits that sold those suits that you wore for stag do's. They were flying Facebook ads. So I contacted them, met up with them, see what they're doing. So if I saw anybody doing something well, I just contacted them, talked to them how they were doing it. And most people will help you out any way they can. So I didn't have one person or one bit of advice that I was going to, but anybody that I saw, because my business is basically 99% online, anybody I saw doing well online in sort of the advertising channels that I was focused on, SEO and Facebook ads, I just reached out to them, and most people came back and helped me out with anything that they could, just free of charge, just saying like, this is what we found successful, that's what worked, didn't work. So things like that just along the way did definitely help. And then the same thing happens nowadays. People often ask us, what's working for you digital marketing wise, and then we'll say that like, this worked for us, this didn't work for us, and all sort of stuff like that. So I suppose along the way I did ask different people different things, but there wasn't really one person I went to.
What about the future? What does the future hold for My Baggage?
God, good question. If you'd asked me that 3 months ago, there would have been a lot. It's all in the air at the minute. So we're still flying at the minute. We're still doing well, shipping a lot, because people obviously are stuck home and they need deliveries. So deliveries are absolutely flying at the minute.
I mean, I was going to say, I guess you're probably bucking the situation really, insofar as because people can't travel to take their belongings with them, they probably need you to do it for them.
Yeah, it's a very different customer at the minute. We're going to lose out in May and June because we don't have the students returning. So in March, we had a huge boost because all the students kind of left university, basically. April, we're doing okay at, but May and June are our two biggest months of the year that we're not going to have that same surge. But we're just ticking over nicely. So although people aren't traveling, yes, a lot of people basically abandoned, where they were living a couple months ago, and we're helping get their stuff back because I think people thought this would only be a couple of weeks and they'd fly back and return to normal, whereas people, it's now more serious. So
every day it goes on, the worse we feel about it, don't we?
No. So I'm not too sure how people are going to feel about travel. I think we're looking at 2021 to really things going back to sort of semi-normal. As long as things are sort of sorted by September when students start to return, who knows, that might not happen, and we'll be okay. But yeah, we've certainly seen, we haven't seen a drop yet, but we are expecting it for May and June, whenever there basically isn't that student demand that there usually is. However, people are sending care packages and shipping stuff all over at the minute, so I'm just thinking worst case, but you never know. We're not too badly affected, which is great.
Fantastic. And listen, I mean, for anyone that's not used you, which I'm sure there's many people listening to this who've been a My Baggage customer at some point during the journey. But yeah, for the guys listening or watching this who don't know you, just tell them where they can find the business, where they can find you if they want to learn more.
Yeah, so My Baggage, we're all online, so it's just mybaggage.com. And so the way our website works is you simply put in your collection and delivery country. So say you want to send something to America, you simply put in UK and then obviously America, and then it will give you 2 or 3 prices based on the size and weight of item you want to send. So that's it. It's just a drop down. Tells you the speed, how quickly it will get there, and then the price. And then if you want to go ahead and book, all you do is put your address information in, your collection date, we'll give you labels to print out, and then someone will arrive at your door to collect it and then deliver it. And America is 2 to 3 days delivery, and it's all tracked online. So it's a full door-to-door service, online tracking, and it's very, very simple.
I mean, I guess it's a question I probably should have asked earlier on, but do you effectively back onto other transportation businesses?
Yeah, we don't actually. The best way of describing us is like an insurance broker. We don't actually underwrite anything. Sort of, we just provide. We buy in bulk shipping services from the likes of DHL, FedEx, UPS, all the big guys. And we negotiate discounts of sort of 80%, and then we pass on that discount to our customer, and then provide the customer service on top. So the couriers don't really want to be dealing with 100,000 people sending one parcel. They want to have one customer sending all those parcels. So the customer gets about.
If I send something with you now, then the van that arrives to pick it up could be a DHL van with a DHL driver.
And if you went to their website directly, you'd pay at least double. It's just because they don't really want consumers. You'd have to be spending, a couple $100,000, maybe £1 million with them to get decent rates, because they want the volume through their network, and they don't want people clogging up their phone lines asking all these questions. So we provide all the customer service, by email, phone, live chats, 7 a.m. to midnight every day. So we really provide that customer service based around people sending personal effects, rather than the courier networks are more set up for businesses that kind of know what they're doing. They're sending parcels every day, whereas the average person that doesn't have a business that's in shipping parcels isn't too sure. So we guide them through the process. They just give us the address, the dates, and that's it, and we handle it all for them.
Well, I've got a set of golf clubs to send back to a friend of mine in Belgium. So he's been hounding me. So I'll give you a whirl and put you to the test.
Yeah, definitely. Golf clubs is a big one for us.
Oh, but listen, Paul, thanks a lot for being here, mate. It's been fantastic to hear your story, and also great to talk to someone who's doing well in these times as well. So thanks a lot, and obviously anyone who wants to use your service, you know where to find you. But service aside, it's been very good to I guess to hear some of your top tips of how accidents have turned into something something very profitable.
That's great. Thanks very much, Matt.
Cheers, buddy. See you later. Bye bye.